This is the Dave and Shecky Show. We got this groovy podcast for ya. Reviewing crazy tunes or quoting Twain and Sting and Dune. We'll bring ideas to share like bonus points for extra flair, cause it's the frickin' Dave and Shecky Show. This is the Dave and Shecky Show. We're bringing you this groovy review. We might preview movies, bake some bread, or drink some smoothies. So come on, have way too much caffeine. You roll up some rivers, I'll reference some Raffy. This is the Dave and Shecky Show.
License and registration. Leon Spinks, huh? Mr. Spinks, you have an unknown substance in your car. Thank you very much. That was a scene from 1979 in Harlem with Leon Spinks.
All right. Well, I don't know what brought you to that, but welcome, everyone.
Knock, knock, knock. Who was there? Oh, it's the police. License and registration? Oh, Cleon Jones? Mm-hmm. Well, you seem to be naked in a van with a white woman. Okay. That will not fly. Oh, Cleon. Oh, Cleon. What you did for the Mets will not make up for this.
All right.
And the rest is history.
Welcome to episode number 39.
Cleon.
Of the Middle-Aged Cool Kids Super Terrific Podcast featuring your pals
Cleon Jones and Felix Mion.
Okay.
It's a very old Mets team coming at you from 1970s.
I am Shecky, and that is Dry Mouth Dave.
Hey, I'm Dry Mouth Dave. I'm Roughneck Dave.
Dry Mouth Dave.
Hey, I'm a roughneck.
Dave, who disappeared only seconds before the show started and came back with dry mouth.
Hey, man, that's what happens when you mess with a bitch from the projects.
Oh, I see. Okay. Anyway, today's episode is all about...
bitches from the projects. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
James Brown.
Oh, okay. That one.
Yeah. The other morning, Dave's trying to wake me up in bed. It's like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning.
That's what I'm talking about.
And he said, you gotta read this. You gotta read this. I can't put it down.
I didn't say that. I said, I gotta be Regis. I gotta be Regis. It's a whole new thing, like a Regis and Kathy Lee.
No.
I gotta be Regis. I gotta be Regis.
You said you've... Okay. He said that I had to read it, and he couldn't put it down, and he stayed up all night reading it on his phone.
Took me a very long time.
Yeah. And I got up the next day and read it, and it was this CNN piece. What is the guy's name? Thomas Lake?
That sounds like it.
He had done this years-long reporting, investigative journalism, old school, long-form journalism about James Brown. And honestly, it was probably the best thing to come out of CNN in decades.
God damn, Godfather of Soul, more like Godfather of Hell.
Wow. So,
where do you even begin?
I'm going to start at, okay.
Let me just say something. You can't believe the story. You just think it's some sort of National Enquirer bullshit. But if you actually read the piece, it takes you about 5 minutes into it before you actually start to realize, wow, this is actually real.
Yes.
So it's not like just talking about it. You're going to think, oh, this is not something that's a reality.
Well, it starts, I guess, apparently with the death of the premature death of one of James Brown's son-in-laws. His name is Lamar, and this guy.
Hetty.
This guy, Thomas Lake, wrote an article for an Atlanta, some sort of Atlanta publication about the death of this person. And this woman I guess, read the article and contacted him a few years ago with this wild tale of rape, murder, drugs.
Rape, drugs, and murder for hire.
Murder for hire. And she had basically, I guess, gone into hiding by working for a circus. And to this guy's credit,
I'm not sure if did she go into hiding or she just kind of didn't have much. She didn't really have much of a career anyway at that point. She was kind of blacklisted.
She could go. She went into hiding. That's a life that still you can go into hiding. Even though they seem to track her down there at the end. So this woman, Jackie.
I'm not sure.
Jackie. I don't know.
Jackie. Mm-hmm.
She contacted Thomas Lake and told him this far out tale of all of this shit surrounding James Brown, herself, his third wife, him, and then she had all of this evidence to back it up. She has tons of plastic bins. She's got a storage locker someplace just filled with evidence.
That's not even the beginning of it.
This is the beginning of his tale because she convinced him to come and see her, and it starts at her motorhome where she hands him this bin and he carries it into her motorhome and opens it, and he starts looking through it, and it's every bit of evidence that basically proves her tale, as fantastic as it is 100% true. That's where it starts, and so then what he does is then takes the next few years corroborating the evidence and the story, and it just gets stranger and stranger, and he speaks to people who didn't even know her that also have the same opinions, the same stories. So it gets very interesting. But for her, it starts in, I believe it's 1988. Well, no. It starts for her when she's a little kid, right? Mm-hmm. A little girl with cancer, has like a Make-A-Wish moment and gets to meet James Brown. And he tells her that she's going to live. She's going to survive. And he writes her a note and she says she wants to write a song or write music. And he writes her a note saying something like, "Bring me that song." And, 20 years later, is it 20 years or less?
I would say it's probably about 20 years later.
Give or take.
Could be more.
She has an opportunity to meet up with him again. She tells him the story. Oh, she's writing a song, like a theme song for the Atlantic Falcons.
The crazy thing is, though, she's writing the song, and she wants Ronnie Millsap to sing the song.
Right.
But the organization won't let them use Ronnie Millsap for some bizarre reason.
They only want James Brown.
And so as a turn of fate, she gets to meet James Brown just because they won't let her use Ronnie Millsap.
Right. She didn't go seek him out.
Yeah.
She didn't seek him out. The Atlanta Falcons said, yes, we love the song, the rally song. No, we don't want Ronnie Millsap.
I think this was right around the time of Living in America, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Well, that could be. And she is thrown into a recording studio with James Brown. She tells him the story of when she was a little girl. She hands him the note that he handed her all those years ago. He says he remembers, and she says he starts to cry because it's a moving thing. So right away, that relationship is kind of like he was someone that she looked up to, even as a young cancer patient, and that doesn't pull any heartstrings with him. And her story with him ends in a rape in a van.
Well, it doesn't even end like that.
And a kidnapping, right?
Yeah, she still continues to associate with him after that.
Because she's so frightened of the people around him. And she calls it the James Brown machine. The people who just provide him drugs
Yeah, you know what?
spend his money.
A similar thing existed with Parliament Funkadelic, with P-Funk.
Is that true?
Yeah, there was a whole fringe around P-Funk that was completely gangster related. And I don't know if you remember, but there was a robbery above the... Is it the Stage or the Carnegie Deli in New York, where like 3 or 4 people were murdered, and it was over a big weed deal thing.
And that was a P-Funk thing?
One of the guys who was involved with the murder was like a keyboard player and or drummer for P-Funk. And it's just like all these gangsters like on the fringe involved with this shit. The same thing was happening with Sly Stone with his band, and that's why the drummer split, and that's also why Larry Graham left, because these people were, threatening people with guns, and you get involved with bullshit, and then that shit evolves into a more organized situation with people like James Brown, and then it becomes like a black mafia type of thing.
Well, it's, reading the story, it almost sounded exactly to me as like what happened to Elvis,
Yeah, but even worse, because I think they were able to control that situation more than Elvis.
Yes, but Elvis still died as a result of being pumped full of these drugs, and just basically Elvis becomes the battery that these satellite people suck the life out of for money. And
Hendrix, same thing happened with Hendrix.
I feel like the James Brown thing, he was easily manipulated by these people who were just feeding him drugs and information. And you want to trust that inner circle, and if they're giving you the drugs you need, he
was a willing participant.
He was a willing participant. He was obviously also insane. I don't know if he was always insane.
I think he was always insane.
And so it was just made worse by the drugs. But he was. There's one story in this article where he went in and shot 7 people in a bar.
Yeah, in the 50s.
In the 50s.
Before he was famous.
A
really
black
famous
guy going into a bar and shooting 7 people.
He was opening for Otis Redding. How's that for an opener?
How do you not be arrested and go to jail for that?
Payola.
The machine was already in process. Well,
see, when you got a talent like James Brown, you got to bend some rules.
No, you don't bend that rule. You don't bend the rule of shooting 7 people with a shotgun in a bar.
That's true.
That's not a rule you...
Well, I don't know. Is this Scarface or James Brown?
It's absurd. It's absurd what this guy has gotten away with.
This is a multi-tiered story. You can't write this shit.
It is a multi-tiered story.
Dean Koontz couldn't have come up with this in his wildest dreams, but it seems like a novel.
It does. It seems like an outlandish novel.
It's fucking amazing. This is like some misery shit. Like, honestly, like Stephen King or something.
I hope that this has been optioned for a movie. And the thing is that, in my opinion...
This will not get made.
Towards the end... these people at some point they said to themselves, we don't care if James Brown dies because his catalog of his best stuff is already out there. He's not going to make anything new, and he's probably too incapable of touring. So if he dies, he dies. We're in charge of his estate.
Yeah, how do you not
absurd.
How do you not have an autopsy done? How is there no autopsy done on James Brown, yet there is one done on Prince?
When there is no autopsy done...
That should be against the law.
And it's a famous person who hasn't died of something that's quite clear. Another one is that Antonin Scalia died with a pillow over his face. No autopsy. So it's just like, oh, okay, that screams something bad happened here. James Brown's wife...
How is it legal to not have an autopsy? What is that?
There should be I don't know, but one of his daughters is the one who said no autopsy.
That doesn't make any sense.
So he's got kids that are involved in this. This is a conspiracy.
His daughter said no. Oh, that sounds reasonable.
I'm telling you.
That's like Bobby Brown saying no to Whitney Houston's autopsy. That wouldn't be anything to worry about.
No one would be alarmed at that.
I don't think that happened, but if it did, Jesus Christ, what the fuck?
No, I don't think Bobby Brown would say no to that.
I don't know what he said. And you know what, quite frankly, that's his prerogative. Okay. Anyway,
this James Brown story starts with this woman the CNN article starts with this woman, Jacques, who was a songwriter, hoofing it, trying to make her way in the business.
Now, her husband was a keyboard player for Atlanta Rhythm Section.
Atlanta Rhythm Section.
And
So,
I Am So Into You is one of their songs.
oh, okay.
Now, what I want to know is...
That's the big hit.
Is Chris Daughtry their offspring?
Oh, is her last name Daughtry?
Yeah, is he related to them?
It would have said something, right, in the article?
I don't know about that.
Okay. I don't know. Maybe not. We'll have to do our own investigative Googling.
Maybe Daughtry is a very common last name.
It might be.
But with the talent of Chris Daughtry, I don't know. It seems like they're related.
I think if they were directly related, maybe she wouldn't be hiding out in a carnival. But
that's true.
Anyway.
Maybe he doesn't know.
Okay. Perhaps.
Maybe it's the father, but a different mother. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, well, whatever it is. Anyway, this woman, for it seems like 30 years at least, she's been collecting this evidence or holding on to evidence.
She's not the only one.
No, who's
the maniac with the vial of blood?
That's another friend of his who apparently, so James Brown dies in a hospital room after he was all set to be released the next day because he had gotten all better. The doctor leaves and we're just going to keep you one more night for shits and giggles, basically. And all of a sudden, one of his friends gets a call and it's James is dying or James is dead, and so the friend runs to the hospital. And after he dies, a nurse comes up to him and says, "I want you to take this. This is not a natural death." And the nurse gave the guy the vial, and the guy has had the vial for decades. I don't know how he's storing it. He has offered it to police apparently a few times to get them to test it, and none of them have. And the guy from CNN offered to have it tested, but he doesn't trust CNN either. Mm-hmm. So I don't blame him. But this is a vast conspiracy.
Yeah, and then there's the other woman who gave James Brown all the drugs that killed him that night.
Yeah.
And this woman who was raped by James Brown has the duffel bag full of all the stuff. One of the things is this woman's shoes that has the residue of the drugs that killed James Brown on it.
Still, after all these years.
What the fuck is that? They actually tested positive for coke, crack, marijuana, and some other drug that the doctor confirmed he had prescribed to James Brown in the hospital.
That night, yes.
So she was there.
And she was like, "No, I stepped on his rug at his house."
And she has the audacity to actually have told this to the woman. And she said, "No, it was a dream I had."
It was a dream I had.
What kind of psychopathic... This is
stupid.
It's all psychotic insanity.
Yes.
I got to tell you, showbiz is not what it's cracked up to be.
No. I mean, and you see someone like this with James Brown already crazy, right?
Yeah.
And now he's being enabled by a large group of people that eventually includes his children. And he had the wherewithal to say, "You know what? I don't want these children of mine to get any of my money. I want it to go to my..." Yeah,
that's not a coincidence that he cut them out of the will entirely.
Yeah, I mean, not only that, but he had, in Chicago, sat down with an attorney with his newest wife, his fourth wife, Tommy Ray, I think her name was, and he had dictated a whole new will. And it was a will that gave her some stuff, but I think gave a lot of it to charities, children's charities.
What a psychopath.
So, and I think this was just weeks after that he died.
The more psychotic you are, the more guilty you are, so the more you give. he rapes people, and then he's like, "Oh, I got to give money to." Why don't you not give any money to charities and just not rape people? How about we call it a draw there? Let's make that a wash.
I mean,
fucking
that's
psychopath.
That's also true, but it's his money. He can decide what he wants to do with it. If that's what he thinks is going to pave his way the pearly gates, then
that's that joke. I can't remember who said it, but Danny Thomas opened that hospital. What
St. Jude's?
What sins is he covering up for?
I don't know.
What is he making up for?
I don't know. I don't think that's necessarily. He might have just been a very religious guy. I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I haven't heard anything about Danny Thomas negative at all.
That's good. I always liked him. I'm just saying. That's an awfully big gift. If you got the James Brown theory, he must have done some bad stuff.
All right. Well, whatever, Dave. Not everybody is like that.
I know. Hopefully.
Anyway, so what was your big takeaway from this?
The big takeaway was James Brown was a psychopathic rapist who was murdered, and there's a bunch of people trying to cover it up, and the cops are inept.
Yeah, that one cop from L.A., when the third wife died in the hospital getting plastic surgery, one of his informants, one of their better informants, they're always accurate informants, gave him a notebook to read. It was her own. She was a prostitute, and somehow she had,
that's
as
a
a
whole
client,
other angle. What the fuck? How many angles are there?
As a client, she had a doctor who claimed he had killed James Brown's wife.
Yep.
And then he realized he said too much to her. And she realized that he thought he said too much to her. She wrote it all down, gave the cop the notebook, and then she died.
A lot of people involved with this have died.
Yeah, a lot of people.
And that lawyer guy is fucking probably the most evil out of all these people.
What was his name? Dallas something or other?
Buddy Dallas.
Buddy Dallas.
I wouldn't mess with him. But the thing is, what was I about to say? Oh, man. Buddy Dallas. Yeah, that's a good name.
I mean, he's an attorney, but what happens when you have these
he's more like Harvey Keitel. He's like a cleanup man.
When you have these entertainment attorneys, they're way more than, they're not just a lawyer. It becomes a whole other thing.
He's carrying the knife for OJ. He's all Kardashianed up is what I'm saying.
Well, I don't know.
I guarantee it. Where'd the knife go?
I don't know.
Exactly.
So there's been some articles about it. Here is from the Daily Beast, the top 10 wildest parts of the CNN report. The circus singer met Brown while fighting cancer. That I thought was...
Yeah.
To me, it's like you meet a little girl who's dying of cancer, you say something inspirational to her, then meet her again X amount of years later, and then he takes you into the woods and rapes you. It's kind
of like a fairy tale ending, isn't it?
What a fucking lunatic. Like, how could you, in the back of your mind, know this whole time this is a cancer-surviving child who you inspired, and then you're going to take her into the woods in a van. Wasn't just
evil.
That.
He's evil.
But dude, he kidnapped her. That's the thing. That was a kidnapping.
He's all evil. What about the part where the person who killed James Brown's ex-husband is...
James Brown doesn't have an ex-husband.
The person who kills James Brown's ex-husband. The person who killed James Brown's ex-husband. The person, not James Brown, but the person's husband.
Okay, then you got to say it better.
The person who kills James Brown has an ex-husband.
Has an ex-husband, right?
Who was a member of Quiet Riot. Now, the reporter asked the member of Quiet Riot what he knows about this, and he said, yep, she called me the night James Brown was dying from the hospital.
Yes!
And told me that he was slipping away right in front of her.
Right.
Now, later in the day, he calls the reporter back and says, no, actually, she was calling me from the house saying that she was on the phone with someone who was at the hospital.
Yeah. Okay. And you're jumping way ahead.
And clearly, he called her and she said, no, you got to tell him that I wasn't at the hospital because that implicates me. Call him back and say I was on a speakerphone. And so then he calls him back and says, "Oh shit! Oh, I just implicated my ex-wife in something I shouldn't have. Let me tell him something different." So that's clearly what happened there.
Right, but see, this is the thing. This woman, Dave is talking about, it refers to herself as James Brown's hairdresser. So Candace Hurst is her name, and she apparently was James Brown's hairdresser, but I think she was probably just a side piece, who needed an excuse to be there.
Seamstress for the band.
Candace Hurst was the person whose shoe Jacques Hollander had, that had the marijuana, diazepam, some sort of heart medicine, and cocaine or meth or something, all residue on the shoe. And the thing is that this woman, Candace Hurst, had confided in Jacques about, how when she was there with James when he died, and all of these drugs were everywhere, and they were so everywhere that they were on her shoes. So she literally told that to Jacques. And then when James Brown died, I guess Candace got the fuck out of Dodge, left the hospital before anybody could come in, and she left this duffel bag there. And somehow...
Why would she leave a duffel bag behind?
I think they were like, just go, go, go. He's dead, go, go, go. One of those things where they just round up everybody and they just go. And she left.
Cameras on James Brown's room? In 2004? That's not that long ago.
I don't know. Maybe there are. Maybe they were sold off. Maybe they were turned off. I don't know. But she left that duffel bag, and through the grace of God, Jacques Hollander went and got the duffel bag. She has the duffel bag, and it just doesn't only just have the shoe in it, but it's got a whole bunch of shit in it. So she's got bins and bins of evidence and video, and there's some of this video in the article, embedded within the CNN article, and there's other stuff that this guy has gone and done interviews with that he has also embedded into the article, which is interesting. But the Hurst woman, she clearly was there the night he died. And the guy from Quiet Riot, you say? Mm-hmm. I guess he had been married to her at one point.
Yep.
And they remained friends.
Yep.
And the night that what you were referring to, the night that James Brown was dying, she called him and his new wife from the hospital and said, he's dying, he's slipping away, he's fading, it's not good. She said she was in the hospital. And so when he got interviewed, all those years later, he's like, oh yeah, she said she was in the hospital. And, and then all of a sudden he calls back the reporter, and says, no, she actually wasn't there. So clearly, and the reporter even says at the end how he's been getting, contacted by all these people who are just trying to give him a runaround, basically, because they don't want the truth to be out. But the truth is pretty clear, I'd say. There was a conspiracy to kill James Brown, who was not a good person in any way. In any way. And there was a conspiracy to keep him alive.
He liked to beat up white women.
It was a conspiracy to keep him alive while he was still a viable act. And then when he was when his catalog could just make the money for them, they just killed him. They had an excuse. He had changed his will. They didn't want that will to be presented as the official will. He was going to leave. He had said that he and his new wife were going to move away from, where was it they lived? In Carolina? Atlanta.
Maybe South Carolina. I'm not sure.
That they were going to move away from...
South Carolina, I think.
Okay. They were going to move away from South Carolina, and he was going to move to New York with his new wife, and he was going to break ties with Buddy Dallas?
Yeah.
It doesn't even sound like a real name. And this other guy, who was the other guy?
That's not a real name.
Who was the other guy?
I don't remember.
I want to say Coleman or something, but I don't know that that's true. And so this all happened within a few weeks, and then he died. So, and then he died. Get this. This was James Brown. James Brown passed away, and his wife went to the house to get some things, and they had already changed the locks on her. His body was warm.
They took the things and then changed the locks.
She had to go to court to be let into her own home. So,
what's wrong with that woman? Didn't you see a pattern? You don't recognize a pattern with James Brown, and you marry him when he's already 70. She's suspect in her own right, quite frankly.
No, that's up to her.
Why would she marry James Brown when he's in his 70s?
Why does a little cancer child hand him a note, and why does she?
Because he wasn't a known lunatic at that point.
Yeah, but
there's a pattern, a big pattern. When you say, "Oh, look at these pictures of his ex-wife," you think that's just she just fell down the stairs a week before she died?
Maybe she didn't see that. Maybe she didn't know.
She's fucking stupid then,
Dave. Honestly, her intelligence is...
Fool me once, twice, but 3 times? No.
Dave, you can't help what people do. You can't control them.
Cannot.
She has, as a legally married person, she had every right to be in that house. That is her home.
I'm not saying that, but why don't she just go marry Charles Manson?
Dave, honestly... There's a time when it's you can't just blame someone because that's fun to you.
I'm not what? I'm saying use your brain.
Maybe she didn't have one. I don't know.
Then you're agreeing with me.
I'm not but I'm not going to make her out to be some asshole. Her husband died. She went back to the house and the locks were changed.
That's fine.
That's the evidence.
She's still not.
That has nothing to do with the evidence. You're bringing emotion into a situation where
I guarantee you, she's whatever.
She was a makeup artist. She
doesn't make up a story.
Or maybe no, that was the third one. Maybe Adrian.
I don't know. I don't trust her.
It doesn't matter the kind of women that he married, or that has nothing to do with the. She is his wife. She has a right to go to her home. And this James Brown machine, had already changed the locks and gone through their stuff. And because these people are high up enough where they have probably paid off police, politicians, local politicians, maybe up to state level, I don't know, but none of this shit was ever looked into. And then the CNN reporter started getting phone calls from mysterious people with no phone no name or number would show up, and they would call, and he's recorded them, and they sent him emails, and then they sent him emails saying, giving information, and then said, I'm demanding that you delete those emails and never use them. And to this guy's credit, he's like, fuck you. You've already sent them. I'm using them. And so he has those embedded in the interactive article. This guy, I don't know what his politics are, and I don't care. He did an excellent job on this. I don't know that it's the most well-written thing, but it certainly is very well put together and researched, and honestly, I'm sure there were times where he felt his life was in danger. I'm sure there were, right?
Perhaps. I'm not sure.
I mean, and he took a chance on this woman, this carnival woman, and drove to meet her. I can't imagine something about her tail, something about her voice, something must have connected with him for him to take it further than, no, I don't think so. I mean, it would have been easy to say, this just sounds all too insane.
It definitely sounds insane. I don't know. He's, I don't know what else he's done. I don't know if he works for CNN or if they bought it or what.
I think he probably approached them with it at some point because he needed help financing it. Cannon, not Coleman, was the other attorney. But they had financial control over his finances. And here. Nick Ashton Hart, managing director of Intrigue Music's European territory, told CNN that weeks before his death, Brown revealed he wanted to be separated from his two lawyers, Buddy Dallas and David Cannon. The Godfather of Soul had previously threatened to leave South Carolina and his lawyers and told only a handful of people he wanted to move to New York in the new year. He didn't want a lot of people to know because he was afraid Dallas and Cannon would try to stop him. The two had financial control over Brown's finances after he signed a will and estate plan in 2000 that gave 3 trustees control. Part of the agreement allowed the trustees to use up to 50% of his income for management purposes. So at some point in the article, it says that he did a $5 million tour, probably 5 dates or something, and he only came home with $150,000. Did you read that part?
I don't recall that.
I recall it only because I've been on tour and I know how much money is. You know what so I know how much money is happening there, and for him to make $5 million and only come home with $150,000, that's insane. That is insane. And how does he not? Well, I guess he does. I guess he realizes, or maybe this woman comes into his life and says, that doesn't sound right.
I don't know about that.
Maybe you need to get away from them. I mean, the only way that does sound right to you is if you are constantly drugged, right?
I don't think she came into his life and set him straight.
I don't think she set him straight, but she might have put an idea into his head.
Nah, I don't think so.
Well, for whatever reason,
in the 1950s, it's a man's world, and he was serious about that, and he's not going to take some woman's advice. That's why he's a repetitive abuser. That's why she's insane to get involved with him. There's no way. He's on a mission. That's all. Fucking lunatic. I don't see it.
I'm surprised she's not dead. Actually, I really am surprised.
Mm-hmm.
And I think somebody should dig up this second will. Or did that guy die already?
I don't know.
The lawyer that he drew it up with.
I don't know. Why didn't they go by it?
I think one of these people had gone to jail, right? For these one of these two attorneys. Said Cannon had already begun taking Brown's millions as investigators found he was building a seaside mansion on an island off the coast of Honduras with more than $8 million he illegally diverted from his clients' accounts.
What did he die of?
He declined CNN's request for an interview and died on October 1st of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Several people have alleged in court documents that Buddy Dallas conspired with Cannon to exploit Brown, though he was never criminally charged. Now, who was the one that...
Maybe Buddy Dallas had Cannon killed.
Probably. Who's the one that he went to talk to who pretended he was... he had Alzheimer's?
That was the heroin doctor who killed the wife.
Right. So the doctor that the prostitute wrote about in her notebook, this reporter tracked him down and went to his house in Florida, and the guy was just like, my memory's not so good. I've got a touch of the Alzheimer's, which sounds like what was the guy's name? Vinny the Chin with his bathrobe. It just sounded like bullshit. And the reporter, the back and forth between him and the reporter, you could tell the reporter also thought he was just filled with shit, and that guy was a murderer and he killed James Brown's wife. He was a murderer for hire. The girl, the informant, who had never told anything wrong to the police, her information had always been 100% accurate, had written on a piece of paper in that notebook, murder for hire. You know, that he killed Adrienne Brown.
That was her name?
Adrienne, yes.
Gotcha.
What did you think her name was?
I don't know.
I feel like this is. I feel like this is a story that hopefully does not go away. That these people, even though a lot of them are dead, this needs to get out there because I think his children are in it. His children, when they found out they weren't in the will, that's the other thing. The kids aren't in the will, right? He dies. They don't bring up the new will. It's disappeared. This Buddy Dallas and this Cannon guy, whatever his first name was, they then hire his daughters that he didn't want them to have any money. They hire them to work for the trustee company. It's absurd. And then they have the one daughter claims that he is buried in her yard. Like they've erected some sort of crypt, some sort of mausoleum in her yard, and that's where he is. And the reporter asks her, is he in there? And she's like, why do you want to know? Like they don't want him exhumed for any reason. So there's doubt whether he's actually really in there or not. They don't want him exhumed. The guy with the vial of blood only wants to give it to a certain trusted entity they have not reached out to him apparently at this point.
Let's give it to fucking Donald Trump.
There you go.
Trump's willing to free some black woman who'll look into this.
Oh, shit, yeah. I bet he loves this story. He probably can't even believe this shit's going down. But this has made me, again, it made me think of Elvis. It made me think of Judy Garland, who was also similarly manipulated with drugs by people around her.
Made me think of Hendrix, bro.
Was he? But I thought he was clean when he passed.
Hendrix, they say, was killed by his manager, Jeffries.
Why?
For the rights to his music.
Does that guy have the rights to his music?
I think he did at one point, but let me tell you something. He's dead. He died in a plane crash.
How?
So that's some sort of coincidence.
What
Michael Jeffries.
When did he die?
I'm not sure. I'm cloudy on it. But, this conspiracy theories around Hendrix being murdered are plenty. And they involve his management and all the people surrounding him.
I would be interested to see if his management people have anything to do with James Brown management people. I mean, especially back in the 70s and the 60s, how many black management companies were there?
I think James Brown's management company is different. I think it's different.
They're all you need is
Jimmy
one.
was managed by white people.
All you need is one person. Yep. You think that Buddy Dallas and this Cannon guy are black people?
No, but I think there's a lot of black people involved with it.
That's fine, but I don't even think that matters so much. David Cannon, I keep forgetting his name. I would be interested.
It matters because they're not the same people that had anything to do with Hendrix.
I would be interested to find out if there is, even if they were one person was a friend with somebody, because you just don't think this thing up.
No, the Hendrix shit is a loose conspiracy theory. This is concrete.
This is concrete now, and maybe the Hendrix thing will be concrete if somebody really looks into it like this guy did. Didn't, what was his, Dolly, what was her name? His girlfriend, Jimi Hendrix's girlfriend?
The black one?
Dolly something Dolly.
Dolly Dagger.
Dolly Dagger.
That's not her real name, though.
No, I know. But didn't she always say that she thought he was murdered?
I think so. She died of a heroin overdose, too.
There you go. I feel like it's real easy to overdose these people.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, seeing how vast and complicated and intricate this particular thing is, I have to rethink everything. This is insane. It reads like a crazy person, like a Philip K. Dick novel that doesn't make a lot of sense. But there is all of this evidence that this woman has, all of this evidence that this guy has collected himself, all of these interviews. I think he spoke to like 200 people. I mean, he did his homework, and it all started with that carnival woman, and I hope that she is okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure. She doesn't seem like she's that great.
I mean, I hope she's not being followed, that she left the carnival because somebody came to the carnival, the circus, and they were sitting in the front row, and she'd been in this carnival for years and years, and so she knows what the typical people who come look like. And these people sat right in front of her as she did her performance. I don't know if she sang or whatever she did. And she called the CNN guy, and she's like, you know what? I don't feel good about this. I'm going to have to leave the circus. And he, to his credit, once again, came out and drove with her.
Yep.
He drove with her. And sure enough, the next day or a few days later, some other people came to the carnival and asked the ringmaster where she was. They were looking for her specifically, and he said, oh, she left. So it's still happening. They don't want it out. They don't want it out because they don't want it to affect the way people think about James Brown's music. They don't want you not to buy it. They don't want movies not to buy the rights to use it. They want to keep getting that money.
I think they want to not be arrested for murder and other things, like at least 20 to 30 people.
I hope they all do. His kids, I hope the body is either exhumed or discovered not to be there. I want the other attorney, that other version of the will to be found. There's a lot of justice that needs to be doled out surrounding this. I would like that woman, Jacquet, to live the rest of her life quite happily, not being chased down by anybody. She survived a horrific ordeal with James Brown. Horrific. She was already a mom and married. And he kidnapped her and drove her into the woods at gunpoint. For hours he raped her. It's disgusting. It's just the tale is outrageous, and I highly recommend everybody reading it. It's called The Circus Singer and the Godfather of Soul. It's on CNN, and it is by Thomas Lake. So much of it is just insane.
Definitely insane.
But as we've had this discussion before, do you feel, knowing all that you know about James Brown, you still would buy something from him?
I don't buy anyone's music anymore. Nothing's for sale. What am I going to do? Put it on my computer? I don't buy things I can't physically own.
Right.
So if I was an album, I probably wouldn't buy it.
Okay.
They got plenty of other shit to listen to. Besides, I've listened to it for the past 40 years. I don't need to buy it anymore.
It's in your brain.
I'll tell you what, though, you can't be a musician and not fucking study James Brown. You'd be a fucking white bread sucker if you did that. If you don't study James Brown, you're not going to know how to play any music. You're going to be a fucking square. So, the guy created the way music is. Without James Brown, you wouldn't have fucking hip-hop music. So, yeah, I'm not going to buy it, but I don't regret knowing about it. And if you don't know about it, you don't know about everything. His shit is so part of modern culture that to ignore it, you'd be partially retarded. You'd be completely retarded. He's so part of music, it's insane. From samples to styles. Jesus Christ, man. There's very few people as influential as James Brown. If you ignore James Brown, you gotta ignore Prince. You gotta ignore Michael Jackson. There's no world without James Brown. There is not a modern world without James Brown. So, it is what it is.
Do you think because of the microscope we are putting everybody under these days that everybody's art will suffer, or people who have art, say at the level of a James Brown or a Michael Jackson or a Prince, they just won't pursue it because they don't want to get famous?
Yeah, it's what I call the Ooga Booga theory.
Oh, I didn't realize you had an Ooga Booga theory.
Yeah, spear chucker Ooga Booga theory.
Oh,
is what I call it.
Ooga Booga.
But I don't want to talk about that right now.
Oh, all right.
But yes, they will not. They will not pursue it. It's going to limit freedom of expression and expression in general. All art will suffer from closed-minded liberals. I have
a guild. I play Terra online. It's an MMORPG, and on our guild Discord we have a music bot, and the kids like to play, and they tell the music bot to play these songs or whatever, and almost every song that the kids are playing that they're choosing to listen to on the music bot are things that are not, don't have any real live drums. They're either completely like a trance type of thing, or songs that are just depressing or something. There's no anything. No one is listening to anything like Aretha Franklin or James Brown,
Mind Control, or
anything of no funk. Nothing that is good. They're listening to stuff that. I'll listen to it and it all seems to be the same. Just that same bad drum sound, and it's sad. But show me the next James Brown. Is he out there?
Yeah, he's not out there.
Is he ever going to be out there? I don't think so.
He got Bruno Mars, but he's not the next James Brown.
I think Bruno Mars
just emulates it a bit.
Yeah, I think he occasionally has greatness, but I feel like he is very safe.
I don't know much about him other than what he puts out. He's okay. He's not James Brown.
No. But he is who he is because of James Brown, right?
Yeah, that's damn right. Yeah, that's true. Hard to say.
It is difficult, but James Brown was clearly a terrible person. I mean, it's absolutely clear. It's not even like, oh, he had some good days and some bad days. He shot 7 people in a bar.
Yeah, and that's the least of the problems.
He shot 7 people in a bar. He beat women. He raped at least this one woman, though there's been other allegations.
He raped more than one
That's
woman.
Of course. I'm saying, but I'm just talking about this Jacques Hollander.
He makes
lady.
Bill Cosby look like a fucking safe babysitter.
Well, I don't know about that.
I'm pretty sure.
But I guess Bill Cosby never raised his hand to a woman.
Well, not while she was awake.
Well, yeah. Well, I don't know.
He lowered his hand.
I don't know that anybody said they woke up with bruises. I don't think that was his MO at all. But
I think they went to sleep with you on their mind. Woke up in love that morning. Boom.
Isn't that the Partridge Family?
It is.
Oh, okay. I don't understand it. Why you said that?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
They woke up in Bill Cosby's bed this morning. Went to sleep with Quaaludes in their hand.
Did you stain that shirt? Is that forever stained now?
Yes, just like Aaron Lewis, who just walked off stage because the audience wanted him to speak Spanish. And he said, "I am American. Thank you. Good night."
Where was this?
In Texas. Otherwise known as Little Spanish Town.
Who said this?
He's the lead singer from the band Stained.
Oh, I see.
But he now has a country music career.
Oh, go. Good for
But he
him.
walked off stage in protest of people asking him to speak speak Spanish.
Maybe he doesn't speak Spanish.
He said that. I don't speak Spanish. I'm American.
There you go.
And then he said, good night.
There you go. Okay. Well, good night to him. Anyway, you stained the shirt. It's a shirt that's,
It's a one-of-a-kind knockoff.
it's a one-of-a-kind, 7, 8 years old.
I'll be able to clean it.
I hope so.
Yeah.
All right. That's about it for this. You highly recommend people reading this article as well?
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah.
will link it in our show notes.
You got to read this article, and you just... I don't understand how justice hasn't been served.
I hope it does. I hope it gets served right now. It's absurd, and that doctor needs investigating, and his pretend Alzheimer's, fucking disgusting. Mm-hmm. Just it's what people would get away with, and I didn't realize it was this. I go on the crazydaysandnights.net and I read these long ass things, and you're like, oh, it sounds like bullshit. If I had read this to you from crazydaysandnights.net, you would have said this is bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. That's why Crazy Days and Nights is bullshit.
No, crazydaysandnights.net has good information.
Then why don't they back their source like this fucking man did?
This
Be
guy,
a man.
Because this guy got paid for it.
If he didn't get paid for it, he still did his job.
Yeah, but believe me, he wants to get paid for it. And he probably will get some sort of an award, I'm hoping.
If you can't back up your sources, you're nothing.
I'm also hoping that this gets made into some sort of movie, or at least a long-form documentary. It's just insane. It's crazy. And he's got this Jacques Hollander. She even has video of her taking a lie detector test with somebody from the FBI. Mm-hmm. And it's he after did you see the video of that?
No, but what is it?
Well, they set up a camera and he gives her this lie detector test, and she's completely honest about it, and then he continues to talk to her about stuff because
everything's consistent.
Yes. Oh, he says she's absolutely telling the truth. Mm-hmm. But it's just there's a lot of stuff that's embedded into the article. That is, you should take the time to listen, read, or watch. Like that woman, Candace, whatever her name was, the dancer with the pot shoes. She comes in and she's clearly just lying and dumb, and the guy is asking her questions, and she's just not being truthful. It's crazy.
Absurd.
It's crazy. So
I can't believe
job
this
well
wasn't
done.
solved 10 years ago.
I don't know.
It's been 15 years already.
Right. Well, and the other thing is weird is all the death pictures they have of him. I find that to be really odd.
Mm.
Don't you?
I guess. I don't know.
Did you see the pictures they have?
Yeah.
I find them to be very odd. Why is that allowed? I don't know that a loving family would say, yes, please take pictures of my dead father. It's to me that was just another thing that added to the whole James Brown machine. Can we make money from it? Okay, then yes, take your picture. That's how I felt. And CNN used those pictures. I find them to be, I don't know. I just find them to be way invasive and
disrespectful.
Way disrespectful.
Poor taste.
Way in poor taste. Just terribly in poor taste. Anyway, that has been it for us for this week. James Brown, the circus singer and the godfather of soul, parts 1, 2, and 3, Lost in the Woods with James Brown's Ghost. I will link it down below. It is a long read, but it is fascinating, every second of it. I guess we'll see him next week, right, Dave?
Mm-hmm.
You have anything else to say?
I have to say that you're fucking people, man. You better watch it.
Okay.
You watch your fucking ass, man.
I would just say, I'm interested to find out more about the Judy Garlands and the Elvises.
I'm into the Judy Collins
And
the Tom Collins.
Because Judy Garland also, if you watch video of her towards the end, she's a bit of a mess.
Sweet pooty Jew eyes.
All right. That is... okay.
It's a great Stephen Still song.
Mm-hmm. We will both see you next time, America.
Goodbye.